सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धे भवतु मे सदा वसुदेवं सुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं हरि ओम कृष्ण वन्दे जगद्गुरुं. Yes, so we'll be continuing now. Can someone recollect something? So we formed the link with last session and we can quickly go ahead. We are reading the correspondence of Sri Aurobindo with Dr. Nirodbaran. Yes, can someone recollect anything that we saw last? Namaste, Manisha ji. Yes, anybody?
Namaste, sir.
Hari Om ji, namaskar. Yes,
Mm.
can we? Yes, can we? Yes, Chitra ji. Yes, please.
Yeah, so we saw that Nirodbaran ji asked if there's any hint that he invited lower forces, for which he got the response as it could be because of preoccupied with too much of low vitals, and was also told to dwell on the good side of things. And we need the strength to reject the lower forces or those suggestions, and to be confident and also be cheerful. And then there were some interactions about his father and the way he was trying to see his father's spirit and those things. What could those things
Yeah,
mean? So we saw that it was nothing to fear about, and just sort of ask what it requires and stuff. That's what we saw about those topics. And then at times he expressed that he feels there's no devotion even towards Sri Aurobindo ji. So, for which he gets a response of to be careful of what he thinks and what he talks as well, because and also a suggestion to get rid of the tamasic thoughts. Um, and then, yeah, the force comes down when there is an opening and acts when the Adhar or the Sharir is ready. So, this was something that we saw. And there were four things, that's the aspiration, will, call, and prayer. So, these are the four important things that we saw. So, aspire to move ahead and willingness to come out of the comfort zone, and then calling upon the divine when we require help, and then seeking in the form of a prayer when required. Um, yeah, then about a bit of poetry related topics. Originality and substantiality is required, is what we saw. And certain level of receptivity is also required for the poetry and the flow to happen. And yeah, the outer forces have to be controlled, and from within, one has to increase the concentration and open the channels so that even for writing, well, can we open the channels or something of this kind we had seen? And can literary activity be considered as sadhana? For which we saw that any activity can be considered as sadhana if it is offered to the divine or done with the consciousness of the divine and allowing the divine to do the work. So,
ji, ji. That's a perfect summary, Chitra ji. Thank you very much. So if you see this, Dr. Nirodbaran didn't like poetry much. So because he didn't like poetry, he had this question. He was not, why is this Sadak getting better poetry? And then finally he says, I'm having a doubt whether one can profit by writing poems. And he says, clarifies spiritually also. Instead of the time wasted in writing poetry, if I did sadhana, I would have progressed more, is what he tried to imply. To which Sri said, why not necessarily poetry? Any action can be what we can say channeled to the divine and can be used as a sadhana. One of the reasons Sri Aurobindo used poetry is one of the madhyams to receive. It allows us to connect with something which is higher. So anyway, let us continue. Sri Aurobindo is getting another letter from Nirodbaran. This time it's a poem. After saying if it's not useful, he has written a poem. I send a poem. I wasn't happy about it. It has too much of Rabindranath in it, I think. Sri Aurobindo, I fear your opinion of it is correct. I fear your opinion of it is correct. Evidently, you have the writing capacity, but it does not come to much, at least in poetry, unless you have something to write of your own. For that, you must wake up something in you that is not yet awake. Nirodbaran, I am much encouraged to hear from you that I have the writing capacity. Since it's there, I can hope that it will express itself sooner or later in its own garb and form. The inner soul of rhythm, originality, etc., come, as you say, by the inflowering, by yoga. I can wait my turn for that. But why do you say you must? Doesn't this must demand from one a conscious and concentrated effort to avoid the imitation and follow the unhewn path? And can one really do it that way? So I think Shervindo's word, he's taken it literally. He says, yes, you have said you must wake up. So why are you saying it you must do? Shervindo replies, no, must simply indicates that what must happen or should happen. What you can do is to have a will that it should happen, settle within you. The will bear fruit in time if it is of the right kind, and especially if it becomes a yogic will. We'll just pause for a moment here. So this question of Sharvinder says, he told him, you must wake up something inside. Now that also, sometimes what we can say, the sadhak also wants the divine only to do that. Tera tujhko kya lage mera, I have said that. So now remaining responsibility is yours. What is the responsibility of the instrument? Divine only has to awaken my consciousness. Well, that is a little of a little bit of tamasic thought, isn't it? Slightly pushing away from our duty. So here, Sri Aurobindo very nicely explains and perfectly says, must means this is what is right, this should happen, this must happen. What you have to do is something which all of us can seek, means we want some raising of consciousness, we want a manifestation of something, we have a strong aspiration. We must have that strong aspiration, is what Krishna is, what Sri Aurobindo is saying. What you can do is have a will that it should happen, settle within you. Because many times in the last adhyaya also, as Chitrari said, that Sri Aurobindo said, be careful what you speak. Be careful. Because you create sanskaras, no, with your thoughts. This is not capable, I am not capable. Krishna has told in the Gita, he will give us. He'll give us the wisdom, he'll give us the knowledge, he'll raise our intellect. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. I'll give you that knowledge which will start making you appear unique. You will stand out in the crowd, you will appear different. That is by my grace. But for the grace to function, the Aadhar must be capable of receiving it. And that is something which can happen when we have a strong will or a strong aspiration. So that is what Sri Aurobindo is saying. And it will bear fruit in time. If you are on the yogic mark, the responsibility of the fruit is in the divine hands, but the aspiration part is always in our hands only. So we must aspire for what is right. Nirodbaran says, I send you a poem. I didn't send it yesterday because it was the day of our vengeance. And who knows, my little verse may have been the last straw. But since all people profit at your expense, it wouldn't be wiser for me to stand aloof. So, the poem and your kind opinion of it, and your kind opinion on it. So, what is this day of vengeance? We'll see that. Usually, nobody wrote letters to Sri Aurobindo on Sundays, but all took vengeance on Monday by sending double the quantity. The sadhaks would send letters of correspondence to Sri Aurobindo, and that was on a Sunday there was a break. So they would take a vengeance by sending double the quantity of letter. If they were going to write 5 lines, they would write 10 lines on Monday. Sri Aurobindo's response to the poem. My opinion is good, but not good enough. More stuff is needed. It was good you did not throw your straw on the waters yesterday. The flood might have carried it away into the beginning of next week. Acha, why you did not send it? Otherwise, this letter would have got delayed in responding. So my question is again and again, we see Sri Aurobindo encouraging Dr. Nirodbaran to write poetry. Nirodbaran has not come to write poetry. He's a doctor, FRC is doctor. At a young age, he's decided he's first sent to carpentry department, then he's sent to another department. Now he's asked to write poetry. He says, I want to learn French. And what is the reason? What do you think? Anybody? This poetry writing, is it because Sri Aurobindo had, a attachment to poetry? Is that why he's asking? Or what do you think? Anybody? What could be the rationale? Poetry and sadhana? Yes, please. Anybody? Yes. Anybody?
Is it because the thoughts can come out and you just start getting more clarity on certain things
Yeah.
which could be possibly confusing, or
Yeah.
for your
So
own questions, you might
basically, look,
start getting answers.
yes. Achitaji, have you tried writing journaling anytime? Writing your thoughts down? Have you tried them?
Yes.
Yes. Why,
Yes.
what does it help? It helps you get clarity, isn't it? Of at least what is in your, or if there is no clarity also, you write down the thoughts, you see, this is troubling me. You're able to look at it in an objective manner. And when you write poetry also, it is not just thoughts, it is something beyond thoughts. And poetry slowly allows us to connect to something which is higher, a higher consciousness. So that is why it is said. If you see a lot of our seers, they were poets only, isn't it? Gita is a collection of shlokas, which are again, it's like a poetry only. Rigvedic suktas. In the Rig Veda, if you see all the different suktas, basically they are poems only, isn't it? Hymns. Hymns of the Rig Veda. To which devata? Indra, Agni, Varuna, Mitra, Aryaman, Bhaga, Ila, Saraswati, gods, goddesses, all of them, they're all poetry, inspired poetry of whom? Of the rishis and the rishikas. So even in the Vedic, there were rishis, there were rishikas also. And what did their poetry do? Their poetry allowed them to raise their consciousness. Themselves, the composers only would use the poetry as a medium to raise their consciousness. And has anybody looked at any sukta of the Rig Veda? Just out of curiosity. Anybody in our, anybody among us? Yes? Any sukta, because it's the oldest book, no? Oldest book never known to mankind. First of first. It's in Sanskrit. It may not be fully understandable to almost anybody. That's different story. But out of curiosity, has anybody seen the suktas? Any sukta? Anyone? It's fine if you have not also, but we'll take it ahead then. Yes or not? No. All right. Just for the just for out of curiosity also, you can try to look at any of this as a, there are so many gods probably whichever connects with you, whichever resonates with you on the inside. Like there is a sukta, for me, first one Damliji had given to me. It was the Varuna Sukta. So for some reason he had seen my probably Patrika and said, I'm closer to Varuna Dev and you can study. So that Varuna Sukta, this Rishi has described the movement of Varuna. He has described certain other things. So for me, when I was looking at it first, it went over my head, obviously. But it did offer me a glimpse of, right, untie the bonds below, untie the bonds in the middle, and tie bonds to the top. Means what is this? Three types of bonds have to be loosened. What is it? What is the meaning? You are the knower of the so many moons. But our world has only one moon, isn't it? I mean, our Prithvi has one moon, but so many moons in the sense it was a poetic explanation of the months that are to come, so many moons that are going to come. You are knower, you are the conscious one. So through the sukta, we could use it as a madhyam. Like that, if the poetry is in the right way, the poetry also serves one as a like a sopana or a ladder to the higher consciousness. That's what is Sri Aurobindo is probably aspect of using poetry. Not that it's a mandatory aspect, but if it works out, and for some reason he felt Dr. Nirodbaran has that opening, so he allowed him to work on that path. Nirodbaran, let's continue. Is it not possible to keep sea here by thy all-powerful grace? Sri Aurobindo, it would mean his cutting all outside ties. So long as the ties remain, the financial obligations also remain. I do not think he has advanced so far that he can cut away altogether and be free. So another sadhak regarding that. is- This person is not fully ready to do sadhana because the person is still having those bonds and some of the ties which the person cannot cut away. Nirodbaran, he says, J says she was given a very small quantity of curry by A and her appetite is unappeased. It is very sad to see that in spite of your repeated directions and warnings to the dining room workers, they forget this simple thing. Share window. It is because D is no longer there. He was very careful in this matter as in all details, especially there in which the mother had given special instructions. I shall write to A. Nirodbaran. I find it rather inconvenient to imprison these bulky letters in a small envelope. You will see how many folds had to be made. It looks so ugly. Still, I do it with difficulty. Sheer window. Ugliness does not matter in this instance. The envelope system has been instituted so as to save a little the mother's time in the morning so that she may not have to cut short the little rest she has or else have to come very late for pranam. Nirodbaran. I had a very unique experience last night in the realm of poetry. The inspiration came, and as I sat down to write, the whole thing dropped, so to say. I simply let myself be led to see how and when it would end. Never before have I written a whole poem in this way. I was very joyous and recovered all lost hope. Why is it that people get so much joy out of writing a poem? Shri Aurobindo, it is the joy of creation partly the joy or enthusiasmos, the sense of exaltation and ananda, which always comes when one is freely and powerfully used by a greater force. So this is one more aspect. Ananda is a lakshana of divine force manifesting or using us. That is what Sri Aurobindo has said. That is one interesting aspect we can see. So very straight question by Nirodban. Why is this so much happiness? It is in joy of creation, isn't it? Isn't there a joy in creation, creating something new? We get
Yes.
that. So that is something we can get. So like in poetry also, or there is any new creation, with that new creation or the new beginning, there's always a joy. Probably the creator also is always enjoying because he's always in this state. Does this spontaneous automatic inpouring depend on some inner state? Sri Aurobindo, it does not depend on any inner spiritual state, but on an opening to some supraphysical plane of inspiration. One more aspect, it is said that you have to be open for the inspiration. Sometimes the person's inner state may not be so calm and peaceful, and still the person may receive the inspiration by virtue of that opening. So probably opening is what is most important. Nirodbaran, I had a very peculiar dream last night. I was going away somewhere much dejected and disappointed. The road I took was most gorgeous, reminding me of the lake districts of Scotland. I had proceeded far. Suddenly Jay came up running and said, "The one whom you wanted has come and is waiting for you." I turned back but found nobody. More disappointed, I was just going away when a woman's form with a child in her lap appeared as if from nowhere. I fell at her feet, saying, "Oh, mother, you have come then," with such an ecstasy and fervor that words can't convey. Are you going to leave me? Will you come often? I asked. I shall come 9 or 10 times a day. With this reply, she vanished, and the dream ended. Who is this form, and what is the meaning of this? And why the child? Sri Aurobindo. The child was your psychic being. It was the mother you saw, and she brought it to you. That is, put you in close contact with it. So it's sometimes nice to maintain a dream diary also. Because certain dreams, not all dreams, many dreams are sometimes projections of our emotions, of our vitals, some of the subconscious thoughts. But when you engage in sadhana, when you are practicing, you are seeking the divine, sometimes we get hints also. So it's always nice. So here, this there was this mother, and that mother had a child. That child was brought close. And he says, what is the meaning? Sri Aurobindo says that child is the psychic being of Dr. Nirodbaran, and the mother has made it possible for him or brought it closer to him. Nirodbaran, I am very, very happy, as if some secret fountain has been unsealed. One should remain as quiet as possible, holding within oneself all the rapture, shouldn't one? Sri Aurobindo, yes. Nirodbaran, is this a simple, vital joy or a joy of writing poetry? Sri Aurobindo, it is not vital at all, though the vital may share in it. So this joy which we get, it is something coming from somewhere higher. Though there may be emotional interferences in it also, but it's okay, is what Shrevan was saying. Sending you a poem that I had spoken of, what an enthusiasmos I felt when I wrote it. Shervindo, yes, this time you had undoubtedly a living inspiration. Nirodban is finally getting all his poems right for such a long time. I am happy, but I'm afraid at the same time lest it should disappear by some inadvertent action of mine. It is generally supposed that the divine also deliberately leads us through alternating states of joy and despair to make us strong or to test us. Is it true? If so, I cannot pray to you to give me such an uninterrupted bliss. Many times we also feel that, isn't it? Everything is going good, then oops, something is going to go bad. Or sometimes we only get worried, we get jinxed where everything is going nice right now in life. Something bad is going to happen right now. So Nirodban is sharing the similar sentiment. And he says, so I should not pray because God is giving happy moments, then he is also giving sad moments. This is only a test. I should take that test. Is it not? He says, I should not ask for uninterrupted bliss. Shervindo, he says, it is not a law, but it happens so because of the difficulty of human nature. If all were led by the psychic being with its faith, surrender, one-pointed will to the divine, there would still be ups and downs of a slighter character, but no need for states of despair. Another beautiful, what we can call secret of sadhana, which Krishna Sri Aurobindo is sharing. If all were led by the psychic being with its faith, surrender, one-pointed will to the divine. So faith, surrender, and one-pointed will to the divine. We are leading that, if we are having this, and all three are leading our psychic being towards the expression or towards the divine, then ups and downs will be of slighter character. There will be no despair, there will be no anxiety. Very little moments. Means outside it may look, somebody else may say this is the worst moment of your life. What a horrible situation. But to you, it may not seem that horrible because you have now got a slight, what we can say, buffer. And what is that buffer? That is the buffer of the divine protection. You're connected with the divine consciousness. So worst of worst moments will cease to remain so bad. The most anxious moments will stop making you despair. Many times we get overwhelmed with the despair and those anxious moments break us. or those anxious moments leave a very permanent, what we can say, some kind of scar in our memory that it takes a lot of sadhana to undo. So best is having Shraddha and what we can say one-pointed devotion. So there's not a law. Another thing that Sri Aurobindo clarified, it is not a law. Just because I'm happy now does not mean I am going to get sad. But there is this human nature which always attaches. Then attachment lead to desire, then loss of desire. So always if you are connected, you are sincere, one-pointed devotion is there. There will be a buffer. There will not be such a great up and down. Sri Aurobindo, he says, Nirodbaran, his ex was coming from the ashram at 9 p.m. and was molested by a ruffian in front of Nolini's room. She called him and then the boy disappeared. I am simply dumbfounded by the news. To think that someone, maybe a ruffian or a devil, should attack a sadhika under your very roof. Is it not surprising? I hear and believe too that you give a wheel of protection around us. Is it so ineffective that even when one doesn't go out of one's way, some hostile being should attack the very physique, especially that of ladies? Then each lady must stop walking alone or each must have somebody by her. I wonder how long it will take to free the atmosphere from these seen vital forces. Sri Aurobindo, he says, when the sadhaks get rid of the unseen ones in themselves and in the atmosphere of the ashram, Nirodbaran is not fully agreeing. He says, I am afraid there will now be an apprehension and a nervousness among all the sadhikas. Sri Aurobindo, the mother has constantly told the sadhikas who approached her about it that they should not be out alone or without a sadhak to accompany them after 8 o'clock, even after dusk. It is not so very safe. After 9 o'clock, any woman out alone can easily be taken for a bad character and even questioned by the police. The reason is that when the streets are otherwise deserted, it is largely drunkards, bad characters that come aboard, or people like the Topa boys who are little better than criminals. Pondicherry is not a place where women can walk about alone at night. This is the Pondicherry of 1934, April 27. 2 or 3 days ago, S asked whether they could they could not go out to enjoy the moonlight at 9 if there were 2 or 3 sadhikas together, and mother forbade it unless there was a sadhak with them. So they are going with the doctor. I do not know why you should consider that a sadhak or a sadhika can count, whatever he does and whatever the conditions, on an absolute protection and immunity. There are conditions under which there is an absolute safety. If the sadhaks are sadhaks through and through, if they have a pure and complete faith, etc., or if sadhika has got rid of the sex impulses and appeal and lives in the mother or with the mother in her, or even if she has a perfect fearlessness, inner strength and courage, then she would be able to walk out unchallenged even in Pondicherry. But conditions are not like that here, as yet at least. The wrong forces are here inside the ashram as well as outside. Under such circumstances, the protection, though it can still acts on conditions and within limits. This is 1934. We are now in 2024, but still there are many parts of India, many parts of Bharat, which are not so safe also. Interestingly, if you know the history of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, and mother was really what we can say very, very forward. Means that time also in that era, the sadhaks and sadhikas all would wear shorts, which was very difficult to think of at that time also. Many times, even today, people have this question, what is this? Why is this person wearing jeans? What is that person doing this? But now, important aspect here is that what we can say, there are a lot of conditions, because the brutal forces on the lower plane are always, what we can say, more active. So for that, one must take precautions also. Just because I am doing a japa, I cannot throw all caution to wind. And it was just, it seems, 2, 3 days before that they wanted to go out. Means there was a freedom in the sadhana. Everybody has the freedom. So here, one of the special aspects of Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga was that absolute freedom for everybody. So the sadhakas wanted to go and enjoy the moonlight. So they had asked for permission. And so even if we go, 2, 3 of us go, is it okay? I was told that do not do unless you are with the protection of some doctor, because that time's Pondicherry was not so safe. Today's Pondicherry is little different, definitely. We can say that. But that time it was not. Sure, Nirodbaran. He says, X, I think, is more or less free from sex and tries to live in the mother. Sri Aurobindo, more or less, tries. That was not what I said. I spoke of freedom from sex and living in the mother. Nirodbaran. I cannot forget a nice dream I had in the first year of my stay in England. Buddha was sitting in Padmasan and was giving me a red lotus. Was it a forecast of my later spiritual life? So during his days as a doctor, Dr. Nirodbaran had got this dream. Sri Aurobindo, he says, I suppose so. May 1934. Nirodbaran. Suddenly I have dropped from a state of exaltation and peace to that of depression. The soaring, the days of exaltation seem to be so unreal, almost a chimera, beside this world of reality. Sri Aurobindo has put a question mark next to the world of reality and underlined that world of reality. Nirodbaran, it is surprising that I cannot live in one state for more than a few days. And yet this dejection, sadness seems so foreign to my nature. Sri Aurobindo, why do you give way to it then? You ought to be able to detach yourself from it, see it as an intrusion, and fling it out. So this, our thoughts, if we have observed, do we think sometimes suddenly lower thoughts come into us, feeling and making us feel sad, or sometimes suddenly depressed? What is there? What is the meaning? Why is there no happiness in my life? So these are all thoughts which come to every one of us. This is not something which is impossible, which is it's not improbable. It happens all the time. But one interesting aspect is look at these thoughts as an intrusion. An intrusion to what? Intrusion to your personality. And they have to be thrown away, all these thoughts, whenever they come inside. So Dr. Nirodbaran has this, very often he is going into a state of sorrow, which he's again calling it depression. One must avoid using that word very lightly also. It is not required. We can be sorrowful at times, but we can learn to throw that sorrow away. So that's what Sri Aurobindo has said. Nirodbaran, would you suggest a way to increase thought power in poetry? Sri Aurobindo, there is no device for that. You have to open from within to a deeper or higher source of inspiration, or grow from within into a deeper or higher consciousness. There is no other way for it. So you have to open from within to a deeper or higher source of inspiration. You should grow from within. Like we have to have aspiration, then there's aspiration for growth, aspiration for progress, aspiration for becoming receptive to what? To a higher consciousness. No other way. We must aspire. Nirodparan. I seem to be contented with myself, in peace and bliss, and have nothing to pray for. Is this not a tamasic peace in a sattvic garb? Sri Aurobindo. It is far more favorable to spiritual progress than being miserable and depressed, or in vital revolt and agitation and disturbance. So he's talking about this peace and bliss. He's got that bliss and he's not feeling like praying anything. He's happy with whatever it is. He's wondering if it's tamasic. Yeah, and this is all right, it's peace. It is much more favorable in spiritual progress than being miserable. Because again, misery and all is what? It is a rajasic response, isn't it? A vital revolt, agitation, a disturbance created against what is we can call the sattvic force. Aurobindo. Sorry, Nirodbaran. I have ceased even to aspire, believing that you will give me inspiration. I simply refuse to make any mental effort. Sri Aurobindo. Mental effort is one thing, and aspiring and holding yourself in readiness is other. So, mental effort is just one small thing, but aspiring and holding and being ready for that, that is most important. Nirodbaran, need one aspire even for writing poetry? Sri Aurobindo, aspiration is an essential part of the sadhana. Nirodbaran, if one waits calmly, does not the grace descend by itself without our asking? Sri Aurobindo, not unless one is in the state of grace, in a psychic condition. Just one question. Has anybody tried writing poetry? Anybody? Yes? Would you like to share some of your inputs on writing poetry? Anybody? Yes, Manisha ji. All right.
Sir, initially, like I'm quite emotional, so I have a lot of bhava. I have feeling, but what I was lacking is the bhasha, the language. So,
Okay.
but I what I realized is when the feelings are too strong, automatically I started
Okay.
getting the bhasha also. I started developing vocabulary
Okay.
and especially on those topics which are very close to me, despite of not being so well versed in that particular language. In this case it is English. So I started developing. I don't know how it happened, but it started happening, and now it's like whichever thing I like, I mean, I have a strong feeling and the bhava is there. I'm developing the bhasha also.
So you are
So
learning to channel your bhava, isn't it?
yes.
Okay. Okay. That's wonderful, Manisha ji. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? So one more thing, Manisha ji, before I go to anybody else. So you think this can allow you to connect with something higher through your
Yes, of
bhava?
course. Yes, because I am getting to know myself. Because I'm being able to build confidence on myself, because I by going recapitulating on the poems. I mean, whatever I have been writing, I have been realizing ki, okay, this is me. This is what I am, and something what I can do. I mean, what I'm aspiring for, what I want to. I can know myself better through my writings, and
Okay.
whatever my creativity. I like to draw also, so through my drawings, I'm
Okay.
getting to know myself better. So
All right.
it gives me immense joy, as Sri like Sri Aurobindo was mentioning, that like when you once you start creating something, it
Okay.
it
Ji,
makes you
ji.
happy.
Ji, ji. All right. All right, Manisha ji. Yes. Anybody else would like to share your input on the same? Yes. Juhi ji, Dr. Tanvi ji, Dr. Vaishali ji, Garima ji, and Chitra ji. Yes, please.
in the past, but I didn't know that I'll be able to write something, and that too in my mother tongue. So I'm not so. I thought I don't have the vocabulary as Manisha ji was telling. But yeah, I couldn't continue that. But I did write for in the month of Jan. I was writing regularly on those. But
Okay.
yeah, as and when you start writing, it just comes. But yeah,
Okay.
I had to try a little bit. It was
Yeah.
not
And
automatic in the first few times.
so
Later, it was okay.
your bhava, you also had to use your bhavana, your feelings as a medium.
For me, the easiest thing was starting with devotion because that was something that I used to do for. I mean, connected hours were for that. So dedicated hours, I mean. So yeah, I could start with that topic. Uh, yeah, and then slowly I just went on to festivals. What if any occasion is there on that particular day? So I was able to connect to that and write. It didn't come automatically that okay, if I just needed some source of inspiration at that point.
All right. So I think, and you can keep trying. And we have a lot of Kannada people in our Delight family also. So you can reshare and you can attempt anytime. They will also enjoy it. And we have now technology also. So I can always get it translated online to understand the bhavartha. So you can always use that. Let us all try to just express. That would be something nice. So yes, anybody else would like to share? We'll go on ahead. Yes, Juhi ji, Dr. Tanvi ji, Vaishali ji, Garima ji. Yes, anybody? Can we all try or resolve to maybe just sometime? No urgency, no right now, or I think everybody has their busy schedules, but just sometime try to express your thoughts. I got one English professor in Japan. So he is writing prose poem. I didn't know what a prose poem was until I read his. It did not appear like a poem at all. But it was just prose. It was something about he had written about his shaving, and I was surprised. Why I asked him, "Is it a poem?" But when I read it, actually, it was really poetic. So we don't have to worry about the outer structure and form, and focus on the expression because sometimes it helps. It helps in one is evacuation also, and it helps us in connecting with something higher. So let us continue. Nirodbaran is in advised by Sri Aurobindo ki yes, aspiration is this is essential part of sadhana. Without aspiration, we cannot go ahead. It is something like that. No, trupti is all right. Trupti is important, but if you are absolutely trupta, a lot of our Bharat also had that problem. We were happy with contented with British occupation for so many years. So we did not revolt. We allowed it to go on until that point came where we had to strongly aspire for freedom. And that fire burnt, and then we received that when that fire was lit everywhere. Something like that in our sadhana also. Aspiration is the Agni. That Agni is required. It is not just desire based. Nirodbaran. If a person asks for something and doesn't get it, he is likely to get disappointed. Sri Aurobindo. If he asks with the vital yes, your mind is too active in these matters. Get your mind silent. Learn to feel within, to aspire from within. Then things will come more easily. So again, this is just a logical question, isn't it? Tarka is trying to say, no, but you're asking me to aspire. But if I ask and I don't get it, then I'll feel disappointed. When will you get disappointed? When you have attachment, isn't it? Not when you have aspiration. Aspiration will continuously give you a steady stream of hope. Even in difficult moments, aspiration will be your light. Aspiration will be that guide. Aspiration will always give you hope. But Nirodbaran is equating aspiration to expectation. And he says, if I have that, then I will feel sad. So Sri Aurobindo says it's just vital. If you are asking in the vital, then that will trouble you. Means even in poetry also, emotions have to help us. After a while, the emotions have to be kept aside also. Earlier, my first book of poem was Rhythm of the Spirit. It was about happiness, then pain, then darkness, then light, and then finally love. These were the 5 chapters. It was a collection. Yes, Garimaji wants to say something?
No, sir, I got disconnected, so I just
Right,
reconnected. So,
right, no problem. Yeah. So for me, that was the reason I made those chapters was for me, it was my own progression. I felt it was first happiness, the happy poems, like my friend was getting married. Both of them were my friends. I wrote a poem, Happy Married Life, my friends. So that was happiness. So many poems connected to happiness. But when happiness is on an emotional level or vital level, what happens? Vital level emotions, then they create a hollow, isn't it? Or some kind of vacuum inside. So immediately after happiness, there was pain. So then there were the poems on pain. Then it was arranged in darkness, because after pain, what happens? You enter into darkness. But then when you are in darkness, you find light. And when you realize that light, when you relate with that light, when you experience it, you experience what is the love and what is the highest, that is the divine love. That experience comes. But that journey was very interesting for me, because most of the time when I used to, about pain, so many poems of pain I have written when I was myself in pain. My own pain, my own emotions, whatever tears, that flew into the poetry. But then one day I wrote a poem on the farmer. Especially it was a time when the Vidarbha farmers were committing suicides. So many of them. It was only on the news. It really hurt me a lot. Being from Maharashtra, being from there, and somehow I felt, what am I doing? And I do not know. I wrote a poem on the farmer, and that got published in the newspaper in Maharashtra. But I felt like I am cheating, because I was not feeling that emotion, what I had written. That was something which was not vital level. It was empathy was there, but it was not my own experience. Then afterwards, I realized, no, I am not my poems. Poems come from a state of inspiration. We don't have to always add our emotional aspect. We can probably not, without adding our emotional aspect also, poetry can be written. That was something. So vital aspect is there. It can help us initially. After a while, it has to be kept aside, and we should cease to be. We are no more creators. We are just the medium for that creation. And the creation will come from that higher plane. So aspiration is required. For Nirodbaran, though, Sri Aurobindo is saying your mind is too active in all these matters, you have to get silent. Manisha ji wants to say something? Yes, ma'am.
Sir, why do we have to keep the emotions aside?
Why do we
What is
have to? What
keep
is
the
the emotions are like the effervescence, isn't it? Or the soda can, you open soda, what happens? That fizz is there, no? After a while, what happens to that fizz? It settles down immediately, it disappears. Something like that. Emotions are not always from the highest state. They are very, when you are writing something on the level of emotions, emotions are easily vulnerable also. You become vulnerable. You write just emotional poems many times. They are utilized for some other causes. I had a brilliant poetic friend who had what we can say an opening already for poetry. But suddenly he said, I want to use this poetry for a political cause. And he was inviting me also, saying this political cause, if I join, it will, you know, light up the emotions of so many people, and that will help, and it will gain popularity also. But that is, yes, Manisha, that is not really why poetry should be written, isn't it?
um sorry, why shouldn't be poetry? I'm sorry, could you please repeat the last part?
No, no, I meant was, so just like your poetry is what an expression of your own personal connect with the divine, isn't it? You're using it for a sadhana.
Yes, I mean, bhava and emotions for me, more or less, they are the same thing. So, without feeling for the person, how can I, without feeling for the divine, I cannot write. So, for
No,
me,
your emotions and feelings will be based on your experiences, isn't it? So
yes.
your experiences will have a stamp on the poem. But is the ugam of the poem only from you, or if it is from a higher plane, should your experiences leave their stamp on a poem which is coming from another source? Is the question.
So, I need to be open.
Yeah, I'm just saying if your source is yours, chalo theek hai, ugam, I am the Gangotri. I am starting everything from me. Swayambhu. From me, it is beginning, it is different. Your influence is not, it is coming from you. But when poetry is not originating from you, poetry is coming from outside, poetry is coming from the some other source of inspiration. If we put
Okay.
ourselves in that, what will happen then?
It will be limited.
It will
We
be
limit.
limited. Yeah, yeah. And our emotions are based on desha, kala, paristhiti, isn't it? Many times.
Yes, correct. I
The
understood.
the paristhiti changes. So my young friend was there. He had good gift, but he wanted to support a political cause. So what are we doing? We are trying to use the creative force, the creative so inspiration for a political cause. Political cause is for whose cause? Divine cause or cause of politicians who are probably like vultures. They even make after somebody's demise also they try to encash on that also, isn't it?
Right.
So that is the danger. When we allow emotions only, it becomes vital. Vital gathers steam very fast, but it runs out of steam also very fast.
Yes.
If you
Correct.
see that there was a gang, no, हमें चाहिए आज़ादी. That's a type of a slogan. All of them
Mm.
were we will take, and it really would catch across even in Pondicherry where people don't know Hindi, and that way they were angry against Hindi, but they were singing this particular poem because vitally it even attracted them so much in the college environment. But if you went little deeper and asked them what freedom do you want? Freedom from exams, freedom from my vice chancellor's rules. What is the freedom? Inner freedom? Absolute freedom? No, we want freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from discrimination among your friends. Freedom from what? That deeper aspect of freedom was never there, no? Because it was only touching the surface of emotions. So there are levels of consciousness which have to be experienced only when you go beyond emotions. Even true love is not emotional.
Yeah,
True
no.
love is beyond emotions. The
Yes.
emotion is on the surface, the effervescence. So it is that is why it is said we have to transcend that. This is na ham karta, hari hi karta. Well, if I am not the karta, then I cannot put my stamp even in something else. Means my stamp will come because it is going to flow. But let us not consciously try to make it happen because then we might limit the flow from our experiences, from our understanding.
Yes.
Did I
I
convey that, Ji? Yes, Ji.
thank you. Understood.
Thank you, Ji. Hari Om, Ji. Let us continue. Nirodbaran, he says, I woke up from sleep with a touch of sadness caused by some depressive dreams at night, dreams which have no correspondence in real life. For instance, I saw H going to a pub and getting heavily drunk, D running after a girl in a drunken condition. Aren't these dreams a sufficient cause to awake one into sadness? Sri Aurobindo. Not unless you believe that they point to something real in the physical life. Why should one be sad for a mere dream? That's also something. I saw something bad in my dream. Many times it happens, isn't it? We see something and then we wake up. I think we've all grown up from that phase. Our saddest moments were probably when school, there were exams only. In the dreams. Those were the dreams that really gave us nightmares. Some of us still get that. That's a different story. But that shouldn't make us sad in our real life. Shriram is saying no need to lose your peace of mind over the dreams. Nirodbaran, he asks another question. He says, am I seeing my own condition in these dreams? Sri Aurobindo, no. These are dreams on the vital plane. So even in the Jagruti, I mean, in the Swapna Sthana also there is a vital plane functional. So some dreams will come from vital plane, some will come from the higher plane. Those which come from higher plane will have hints, will give us some kind of direction. But those from the vital plane, they'll only create disturbance. One easy way to understand which plane the dream is from is the is recognizing the net effect of the dream on you, the consequence. It's leaving you peaceful, it's leaving you quiet, it's shanta, then you can understand it is from the higher plane. You need not call it a dream. Sometimes we get darshanas also in dreams. They are really special. We shouldn't dismiss them off as just dreams and forget it. Instead, we should try to hold on to them, try to revisualize it, even probably write it down. I think there was one participant in Gita class. I don't remember the batch number, but Renuka ji, yeah, 21st batch. Yes, she had got the experience of the Vishwarupa Darshana. Till date, I feel that was the best Vishwarupa Darshana, which probably even in the Adhyaya of the Gita, it is not so much in detail as much as she got. And her backstory also is she's a very pious person, but she went through a lot and lot of difficulties in her life. So that darshana she got, and she kept calling it dream, as if she should not call it a dream. So she got an anubhav that she got a golu of Vishwarupa only immediately the next day. And this is not in India; it's in USA. What are the odds? What are the odds of it? And she had such a vivid description, such a clear description of it that it was unbelievable. Height of Krishna and Arjuna. I had never come across that in anywhere. In her dream, it is there. She's able to see all those various Vishwarupas. So that is something. So we can also experience it, but sometimes they are from the vital. So Sri Aurobindo says, no, these are dreams on the vital plane. Such dreams may be mere formations in the vital without any actual value. They may point to something in the person's scene which was there in the past. In some cases, they indicate possibilities of the future. In other things going on in the present, the last is rare but does happen, but not always in the form suggested by the dream. It is such things that happen on the vital plane very rarely, though that too does happen on the physical plane. But also, they may be merely possibilities conjectured by one's own vital mind about people. So one must know which it is of these various possibilities before getting sad about dreams. For instance, in H's case, it is evidently an impression of something in his nature and habits that you knew to have been there in the past and which you know is not there at present. So it's quite clear what Sri Aurobindo is saying, that there may be conjunctures of your vital mind participating, creating some. We all see people, we think about people, we imagine certain things, then those imaginations start visualizing, which very rare are they from past life. Like one of our Gita participants had shared her experience of trauma in the past janma. Trauma in the sense of physical trauma, like was described now in this case of a person who was working late in the night. Now, did it happen in real life? No, it happened in a dream. But the person got so attached to the dream, despite that person being from the medical profession, the person started getting into a, what we can say, bad habit of overeating connected by the dream. And then the person started searching for symptoms of, I'm feeling all these symptoms, which are actual symptoms of abuse. But that happened in the dream. But that person connected it with the past life. Or maybe it did have connection with the past life. But does it have a connection with the present life? Current life? No, it doesn't. And what is happening in the current life? The person is losing touch with reality, isn't it? So that is time we should keep sometimes our dreams away also. It's not required to get sad. We may get hints, may not get hints, but it's not always possible that they are 100% correct. It's best to dissociate ourselves. Being feeling sad about it is not at all required. Damleji's father had told you will see devas, you will see asuras also in your dream. Don't give attention to both. That was the advice. In one way, it's nice. If our deva comes also in the dream, we'll say, all right, come now, come in real life also. Thank you. Thank you for coming in the dream, but come in the real life. Give me a pratyaksha darshana. Nirodbaran. I have been thinking whether I would not profit more by spending the time I use for writing and doing meditation instead. Has the writing work any spiritual value? It appears like it's again, I'm reading the same thing, but it's not. This question is repeated by Nirodbaran. Sri Aurobindo, no present value spiritually. It may have a mental value. It is the same with work. It has a value of moral training, discipline, obedience, acceptance of work for the mother. The spiritual value and result come afterwards, when the consciousness in the vital opens upwards. So with the mental work, it is a preparation. If you cannot yet do it with the true spiritual consciousness, the work as well as the mental occupation must be done with the right mental or vital will in it. So this is what Sri Aurobindo is saying, that yes, at present it is not actually contributing too much to your spiritual work, but it's at least a mental work, a mechanical work, a mental work. Many times we have mental blocks also, isn't it? Don't talk to me about accounts, some people say. Or some people say, don't talk to me about poetry. Unfortunately, most of my friends say that. No, don't talk about poetry. Hey, go Shakespeare, now is not the place. Well, in life, do we have to have mental blocks, is my question. As a sadhak, anybody? Do we need mental blocks as a sadhak?
No, we have to be open.
Because if the divine wants, we have to function, isn't it?
Yes.
Whatever role the divine wants, we should be ready. If we want to be ready, that means our preferences should be kept aside. We can have our preferences. I don't like to raise my voice. This is a preference, isn't it? But if the divine wants me to raise my voice, if the divine wants me to stand up for myself and say, this is it, this is the last straw, I will not tolerate anymore. Can I say my preference is this, I will not follow the divine? Then I'll suffer the consequences of not following the divine. So
Because
yes, Manisha.
being rigid is being rajasic. So
Yeah.
we can't be rajasic.
Yes. So even in the attachment is there, no? Sattva has limitation. They say don't be too good to be true. Or this person is too goody, that this person is now forgetting what is right. So attachment to that. Pitama Bhishma, I am going to hold on to my oath no matter what. But what is the spirit of the oath? Little higher mind will tell you this is not to support Duryodhana at all. But that did not happen in the Mahabharata. So this is something that we must probably close our own, what we can say, mental blocks and open ourselves to what is the higher will. So for that is why it is said many times, do some things which you don't like. Do things which don't agree with you completely in your personality also. Why? That will broaden your consciousness. That will show you are capable. And the truth is, the divine is always there to help. There's only one thing I didn't like in school, that was chemistry. So I do not know, some God had some interesting plan. He made me do BSc Correspondence Chemistry. So I had to write three years exams. That is also 10 years after my engineering. But it was a block against organic chemistry which I had to break. And problem with nature is you do it or you'll be forced to do it. I was forced to do it because it was a regulatory requirement at our manufacturing firm that they wanted one of the chemists. And as a contingency, I had to prepare myself, become equipped with it. So 3 years, no matter what, I didn't like it. It was like eating, you can say, some bitter pill. So I had to clear the exams. But then later on, it turned out to be useful. It was very useful that that work happened. It was 3 years plus after 2 more years of experience, some 6 years later, 7 years later, I got registered in the government's directory only. So something like that, many times in our life, we should not let our own personal preferences take control. Otherwise, we're not available for the divine. We look at one more shloka, one more question, and we will stop. The mother says in her prayers and meditation that experience is willed by the divine. Am I then to suppose that dearth or abundance of experience is, in any given case, willed by the divine? Is this question clear? Yes? Can I repeat it? Yes, the mother says, in her prayers and meditations, there's a book, Prayers and Meditations, written by the mother. It's a book of her intense sadhana and some directions given for the sadhaks. In that, it is written that experience is willed by the divine. Experience, as in the spiritual experience that a person receives. It is the divine's will, so it happens. So Nirodbaran is asking a question, a counter to it. Am I then to suppose that dearth or abundance of experience is, in any given case, willed by the divine? So if there is absence also of experience, that also is will of the divine? This is like Arjuna, no? In the Gita, before Krishna says about higher knowledge and all, he first uses tarka only. What is this? Why do you think? You say like this, then how does this happen? You are saying divine, everybody is divine. Then if everyone is divine, why do they do sin? So something like that. So I'm not getting experience. That must be God's will, is what he's trying to justify. Aurobindo, he says, to say so has no value unless you realize all
Um,
things. Yeah. Yes,
so
Marimaji.
sir,
Yes.
when we say if we don't have experience, it is will of the divine. So here the experience is only bad experience, or the experience can be good as well, right?
No, yes, no, this he's specifically talking about experiences in the terms of spiritual experiences or adhyatmic experience.
So, somebody can have bad as well as good experiences. So, sometimes if we have a bad experience about something, that could be situational as well. But in future, then we try to escape or try to do few things so that we don't again land up in the same situation. So, how
Ji,
to
yeah, yeah. Means how to, please continue, complete the question, ji. How to?
that time when somebody would have got bad experience could be situational as well. So then how to get rid of that thought, let's try it again, or
Yeah, so we just now, if you see, we'll first look at this in light of Nirodbaran, Dr. Nirodbaran's statement. So he has first quoted the word of the mother on spiritual experiences, prayers, and meditations. So it's basically about the spiritual experience. So the mother has clearly said is it is by the divine will that spiritual experiences are got. Like it is said, he who chooses the divine is chosen by the divine. Means it's the Ishwar's adhishthan, Ishwar's ichha that it is happening.
okay, got
Now,
it.
yeah, so now what Nirodbhan is using is playing the devil's advocate, trying to counter it by saying that, so that means if I'm not getting the experience, that is also divine's will.
Right.
So
Yes.
that is a wrong logic, isn't it? It is his inability to allow the experience to come to him because of his lower nature. No, the divine
Right.
always is that aspiration should be there in each one, each seeker, and the consciousness should rise. So let us see. Nishi Aurobindo says, to say so has no value unless you realize all things as coming from the divine. One who has realized, as the mother had realized in the midst of terrible sufferings and difficulties, that even these came from the divine and were preparing her for her work, can make a spiritual use of such an attitude. For others, it may lead to wrong conclusions. So here you see, even terrible sufferings were looked at as spiritual experiences. The mother was able to see the behind the wheel, that they came from the divine. Why did they come? For preparing her for her work. This can be, one can use that. If you see the mother's life also, it's very interesting. If you get I'll try to find the link of it. If anybody is interested, you can let me know. I'll try to find a small booklet about the story. How, from France, somebody comes, leaves everything, comes to another country. In another country, she gets accepted. She gets accepted by everyone. Everybody start calling her the mother. She becomes what we can call spiritual collaborator of Sri Aurobindo at a time when already the world is not yet awakened in the highest consciousness, setting up of Auroville, tremendous power, and how much, what we can say, there's a photo of the mother, there's an artist's work of mother having a hammer in her hand and breaking a golden gate. Well, that gate also, that door was being broken and for the light to manifest, and that was what she did. She broke so many hurdles, mental hurdles, so many, what we can say, ignorances, and so many people that was broken down. So here, the mother is saying that even her own personal sufferings, whatever they were, whatever terrible difficulties she had, she could understand them as by the divine will. She could see the divine grace working in it. This is something which is extremely important. If we can see that, then we can use that attitude to progress even in difficult moments. You are failure. If you fail, it makes you sad. You cannot see anything beyond the failure at the moment. But if you are having a broader view, you can see that this failure is just one more step you have taken closer towards success. You are closer towards rising into that higher consciousness. If you can do that, then you can progress. Otherwise, it will take you to wrong conclusions and you will be living in that. That is Maya, no? Getting trapped in the wrong conclusions. Otherwise, you recognize the divine, Maya metam tarantite. You can break through Maya, reach the divine. Divine will help you. Divine companion, Krishna, if he can see and find him, I think there's no greater joy in life. You'll never be alone. Personally, I also can explain from my own little experience. And many times, even in the factory, if I'm alone also, no, it's not alone. I can feel a presence. He's there. And that can give us some connection of what we can say higher knowledge. And Krishna is there to always help us. So we'll have to look at that instead of trying to justify absence of experience, as Dr. Nirodbaran is trying right now. I think with this, we'll stop today. Anybody would like to summarize something, or you want to ask something or share something? Today's set of shlokas were pretty straight. I mean, shlokas, not shlokas. Today's set of discussions were pretty straightforward. There was not much about the psychic being or much about the inner planes, but some things were there which were also pretty essential in sadhana. Yes, anybody? Anything you would like to ask? Anything you would like to discuss or share? Or we can conclude. All right, then if there is nothing much to discuss, we can conclude then. Yes, anybody would like to share some of the points if you want to? That
Sir,
also. Yeah,
one
Manisha.
question. Buddha sitting in Padmasana, there was a dream. So, what was the significance of, what was the meaning of that dream, Buddha sitting in Padmasana? That was a.
Yes, that was one which he had in Scotland, isn't it? Is what he said. It was in Scotland, and when he was in Scotland, that time he got a dream, and that time Buddha was giving a lotus. So he asked, was it an indication of my spiritual life to come afterwards? Because that way he was not looking like he was having a spiritual life when he was a doctor there, and he was just doing his degree, isn't it, in the UK? So he asked if that was an indicator of the spiritual life to come. And Buddha and lotus also is a very symbolic connection, isn't it?
Right.
Om Mani Padme Hum, the Lotus Sutra.
So that was a dream which was connecting him to higher plane, because
No,
you had mentioned that we can judge whether the dream, after the dream is making us calm or not. So if it's making us calm, that means the dream belongs to the higher plane. If it's not making us tense, then it belongs to the vital plane.
Yes, absolutely. And that is why, and he asked it because he remembered it so long later also, isn't it? So now
Huh.
he's drawing a connection, correlation. Ki, acha, that dream that I had that time, did it mean like that?
Right.
And that lotus can also symbolize the blossoming of an inner lotus.
Right. And
The lotus
another thing very
symbol is
interesting,
Baba.
yeah,
Yeah, ji.
like whenever I feel something intense and I start writing something, here Shri Aurobindo mentioned that the the poetry should not come from emotions. Emotions, when one is emotional, we are restricting ourselves to our own maybe interest, selfish motive, which is not so. Those poetry will not be connected with the divine. I mean,
Yeah,
through
yeah,
those poetry, we can't connect ourselves with the divine. It has to be from the higher like we have
yeah.
to aspire for some uh, 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 it has
Yes,
to happen in a different way, not just
that is, yeah, that is if
yeah.
we are using poetry for sadhana.
Huh.
Otherwise, a lot of time poetry is not used for sadhana, isn't it? Poetry is for expressing of vital emotions only, many times.
Yes.
That is why Sri Aurobindo is using it, asking it for sadhana. Otherwise, I've seen friends write poems on their dates about things, about something which is, and in that so many emotional elements, it looks very interesting at that particular moment. But
Mm.
a few years down the line, they're not fully based on truth consciousness. The emotions change, no? Then they cease to have value afterwards.
Mm.
Because on emotional level, somebody is praising somebody just by their emotions. Today you look like the moon, tomorrow you look like all the craters on the moon. It is that the lens has become more fine now, so the person is able to see so many things more than what was initially visible. Most vital relations are like that, no? Initially, very good relations, and then after a while, because the founding reason is petty, no? Lower
Correct.
emotions. But if it is
These things
higher,
fluctuate.
if it
It
is
will
high,
change.
yeah, and if it is higher, they
Mm.
say time will tell, no, that the bond will grow stronger. It will remain. It will not disappear at all. That
Right.
will be there. So the poetry should be used for that. And many times when you, like you said, no, you don't have to worry about vocabulary.
Mm.
The words will come. The words will come. That is Shruti is what? Shruti is hearing, no?
Yes.
Like that, poetry also is about something. Words can be, you can write, you will not know. I remember first time I had written something about Pegasus. Pegasus, the horse. Honestly speaking, I had not studied Greek mythology. I've still not studied it at all. I was surprised why I wrote it because the only way I got introduced to Pegasus was in a game. That was in my college days, and that was the most useless creature in that game because in the game that creature was supposed to function for intel gathering and nothing more, and that would disappear. It would be easily shot down by the enemy troops. So there was nothing spiritual in it, and there was nothing. But the rise of the Pegasus, the poem that I wrote, when I wrote it, I was only feeling ki is something wrong with you, Sushruत. Your head is a little bit weird. Why are you writing this? That too, I was in a mechanic shop that time. I was sitting thinking about it and where is the place? Where is the logic? But I was surprised and I got tears in my eyes afterwards because 1 year later, when I saw Sri Aurobindo called Pegasus equivalent of Mother Saraswati. Not exact equivalent, but it was the muse of the poets in the Greek side. I was so surprised कि चलो ठीक है हम पागल तो नहीं है. Look, Sri Aurobindo has given this connection. Then there was a beautiful symbolism of the Pegasus. Everywhere the Pegasus touched foot. I mean, its foot touched on the ground. From there would be a stream of the river would start flowing. That river is again Mother Saraswati's river in Rigveda, no? And this river is not river. River is river of inspiration, river of flow. So then I felt, ki, wow. But at that time, it didn't seem logical or sensible also. So we don't have to make sense of what we write also. We just have to become open. Just practice. Write it afterwards, tear it if you want, write it, keep it better than tearing is to keep it because you can revisit it later. And there's no rule that you cannot edit your own poem. You can, isn't it? Try to make it better. Today you wrote something, you get the flow. But once you get into that, because you get into the habit of connecting with a higher plane. Our job is not to write only poetry. If we keep writing poetry, maybe we will enjoy it. But then if we have different karmas, God wants us to do something. Then we'll have to do that, or we'll choose what is prayers. No, isn't it? Our job as sadhaks is to do whatever we are ordered to by the divine. Personally, I just want to sit under a tree and write poems day and night. But I think that day may come after some many decades only. So I'll have to wait for that. Something like that. But we have to get into the habit, because then in different moments we will be able to connect with the divine. We learn how to be open to the plane at different places. You go for a function, you'll suddenly be able to see, yeah, this is the higher force, connect it. Let's manifest. So you need to understand it. In dialogues also, higher force will manifest. Even opponents also will forget to oppose you. They will lose that. Sometimes if they attack also, the attack will lose its sting, because your divine force is guiding you. So how will you know what is divine force unless you practice? So poetry is one of the ways. Poetry is way. Art is also a way. Because you have the art tendency of drawing, express it beautifully. If you can dance, dance also. That is also expression. So, but it is about really getting that nice flow, connecting. That is what we saw. Emotions can help up to a level, after which the higher plane, when it starts functioning, it is beyond the indriyani, paranyahur indriyebhya param manah manasastu parabuddhi. And then yo buddhi paratastu saha. Higher plane, there's also something called supramental plane. That is the highest. Supramental plane. That manifestation takes place Vrindavan on earth. No need of special sadhana. We will all understand each other. We'll be in the company of our dear ones everywhere, every time, anywhere we go. That is what is the aspiration ultimately, that let us make this world a better place for ourselves and for everyone else also. For that, at least we should practice it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ji. So, all right then. Yes, ji. Hari Om. So, if anybody has anything to share or ask, I'll conclude with a Shanti mantra. Right. Hari Om. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. हरि ओम तत्सत्. कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं. जय श्री कृष्ण. पुनर्मिलामः. We are
Jai
yet to
Shri
Jai Shri Krishna. We are yet to see the humorous.
Hari Om.
Hari Om ji. Namaskar.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Namaskar. Hari Om.
Hari Om, sir. Thank you.
Hari Om. Thank you ji. Hari Om.